So here's Pro Football Network's list of the top 10 head coaches. And number 1, Andy Reid. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
No.
Number 2, Sean McVay. Number 3, Kyle Shanahan. Number 4, John Harbaugh. Number 5, Mike Tomlin. 6, Jim Harbaugh. 7, Matt LaFleur. 8, Sean Payton. 9, Dan Campbell. And 10, Mike McDaniel.
There's a problem here.
See, do you want to start, Boone? Because we're probably thinking the same thing.
I think there's just and I'm not going to go, to be honest, I'm not even going to break down the top 5. I think that's all, I like all those guys in the top 5. I think it goes to, and you guys know I'm a Michigan guy. So Jim Harbaugh, and I understand everywhere he's been successful. I just think when you get back in the NFL and when you're doing lists like this, I don't know if you can just say right away, oh, Jim's there. Because you do want to still see what he can do, because he was successful with the 49ers. He was in Michigan and Ann Arbor. I just want to see it, and I'm a Jim guy, so I think it's fair for me to say probably shouldn't throw him at number 6 just yet. I think it's fair a little bit, but maybe like 10, 11. Matt LaFleur, again, this is another Booner guy, a SVSU guy, alum, went to the same college, should not be there. He should not be there above Dan Campbell. That should not be a thing. And then the same thing with Sean Payton. What has Sean Payton done in the last year or two since he's gotten that job to say, that he's a top 10 coach? You can argue he should be outside of the top 15.
We're going to leave Sean there, Boone. We're going to leave Sean there.
I get he's won a Super Bowl and he can coach, but you have to look at what happened last year. Who coached the best season last year? Dan Campbell's above Sean Payton from last season.
But where did Dan Campbell come from? And I don't
care who came from where. I really don't.
He had to inherit that Russell Wilson trade. And I'm not saying because I want to put, I just think Sean Payton, that's fine. I'm more mad about the Matt LaFleur one. Matt LaFleur, if you want to put him in the top 10, that's fine. But let's go back before this year. If you're going to instantly jump him above Dan Campbell and Sean Payton, which is egregious, let's not forget that this man had not prime Aaron Rodgers, but a 2-time MVP Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, David Bakhtiari, and won how many NFC title games? 0. Dan Campbell already has shown that he's already a better coach in the last couple of years, in my opinion, the last 2 seasons, I should say. So to have him above Dan, when you look at what they inherited, I think is egregious. Matt LaFleur, top 10 coach, but I think that's the one that should be behind Dan Campbell instead of Sean Payton. That's in my opinion.
think both. I think both. I think you could just take Dan. This might be biased of me. I think you could take Dan and put him above Jim Harbaugh, and move everyone down.
Okay.
Personally. And I get where you guys are coming from, but what have these guys done the last couple
years? I didn't even say anything yet. So hold on. You keep going.
That's just where I'm at with it. Dan's done a really good job. He his first 2 seasons, he struggled and he's gotten better and better and better. And he just took a team to the NFC Championship game. I get he had Ben Johnson and he had this and that. Guess what? Who puts that together? Dan Campbell. Sean Payton, you can give him all the credit he wants from the past. We're talking about right now. Yeah, he had Russell Wilson in that. Guess what? They were almost what are we doing here? It's not like they had the worst roster in the NFL, and they started off so bad. And Jeff, I know the Broncos, that was your team last year. They struggled, and they probably shouldn't have. So I'm going Dan up. I don't know if that's a biased opinion of me, but I'm pushing everyone down from Jim, and I'm saying Dan should be up there.
So real quick before I start, I would like to know, and I'm not going to get this answer, but it's more of a rhetorical question. What is this list based off? Is it based off last year? Because then you're saying Dan's better than John Harbaugh. Or no, he'd be right where John Harbaugh is. He's better than Tomlin. And I wouldn't agree with that. So I don't think it's based off just last year. I think it's big because then Sean Payton shouldn't even be top 10, but he should be. Absolutely no question he should be top where he is. I think that's about fair. So I don't know how we're basing it. Is it resume? Because you know what I mean? If it's resume, then yeah, Jim Harbaugh, he's fine. I mean, he consecutive NFC championship games, a Super Bowl appearance. He has more than Dan, and more accomplishments in the NFL than Dan. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm confused. Is what is this? What is this list based off of? That's probably where I would ask. But
because it says 2024, I think it's head coaching rankings heading into this season. Their top coaches heading into 2024. So I don't know what they're basing it off of, to your point, but this is their best coaches heading into next year.
Well, we all agree that top 5, Boone, you said it, and I agree with you. Top 5 we're pretty cool with. Top 5, I don't have a problem with it. So we'll go to Jim at 6. excuse me, I don't mind Jim at 6. And maybe that's just because I've been, hyping Jim up this whole time, him going back into the NFL. But let's not forget what he was in the NFL either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I get he had a damn good roster, but we've seen coaches fumble that. And he consecutive NFC Championship games, Super Bowl appearance, almost won one with Colin Kaepernick. He's a damn good NFL coach. Now, we'll see what happens this year. Obviously, it's a different team, different organization. But based off his resume, I think he should be here. Matt LaFleur, I know you're consistent with this, Lucas. You've never been a fan of Matt LaFleur, and I get that. I've always went against you a little bit because I got more respect. I mean, this guy had the youngest roster in the NFL and went toe-to-toe with the 49ers. What?
Yeah, but what did he do with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron?
I was with you until
I
this
think
year.
Matt LaFleur has flipped.
Yeah,
Matt
agree
LaFleur has
until
flipped.
this year. Yeah, he gained my respect this year. I still think this is
Thank you.
the problem that I have with Matt LaFleur is that a lot of people have been saying that he's been in that spot for years, and it's been like, what are we doing here? And I agree that he earned my respect this year, but I still don't think he's to the likes of Sean Payton or Dan Campbell yet, because I think he's a better play caller 100% than Dan Campbell. But as an overall head coach, as far as chemistry, building a locker room, I know that doesn't sound important, but when you look at the cultures around the NFL, it's obviously important. And I think that's where he's got him for sure, because Dan still has a good offensive mind. It's not 100%
Right.
Ben Johnson. At the end of the day, Dan Campbell had to go, hey, Ben, you're the OC. And you look at Matt, he's got a couple OCs that have left him and DCs as well, and he's the one that are picking those guys.
And that's
Can I
and
say
also
this too?
No, go on, Boone. You're good.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. What do you got to say?
I was just gonna my point here with this too, and this goes back to last year, the head the coach of the year argument. And I know us three, I think, had a little bit of a battle down the stretch with that. Kind of texting each other and going on air versus each other on this, but none of those coaches of the year award candidates are on this list outside of Dan Campbell. Just want to throw that out there real quick.
Yeah.
And I get it's what you did last year. I get that, but I was looking here. All right, who's off the list? Who could you say got snubbed of this list? And I'm looking, I'm like, Stefanski's not on the list. That's a guy that everyone was so high on. Oh, he's taken the Browns to back-to-back playoffs. He's done this, he's done that. Where's Stefanski on this list? I don't think he should be on it. But I'm just saying, that was and I think it's interesting to see a Pro Football Network kind of break this down.
Yeah.
And this is kind of obviously you could say Dan's a little disrespected here, but at the end of the day, he's in this top 10 list, which is very fair to me that he is a top 10 coach in the NFL. So Stefanski, no, shouldn't be on this list. Guess what? He just won Coach of the Year over Dan Campbell, which is crazy. Oh, I guess he didn't. Did he win it? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Nuts, dude. Nuts.
I think some honorable mentions, fellas, would be you'd have I would immediately assume a Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans. You have Kevin O'Connell,
sure.
Zach Taylor,
Taylor's
those guys.
a good one.
I
think some of those guys you named just are a little too early on in their head coaching careers to where it's hard. I know Dan's in year 3, but if we're talking about
Zach Taylor is a better coach than Mike McDaniel, but that's just me.
I agree. I do think Zach Taylor's someone you could argue could be on this list, but Zach Taylor's he's gone to a Super Bowl. So again, but
and he actually beat Pat Mahomes.
And these different guys, they're in year 1. They're coming off year 1. D'Amico Ryans. It's all right, we do need to see a little bit of a bigger sample size, a little bit.
Do you guys think Dan Campbell? I'll just get related to the Lions. Do you think he should be higher?
No.
Yes.
I think this is a perfect spot for him.
Because
go ahead.
No, explain yourself. Go, because I
was just you look at because one, Dan is very new, and I think while I did just say you can't give it all to Ben Johnson, I think you do have to. I think sometimes people act like it's 99% Ben Johnson. No, this is still Dan Campbell's playbook. So he is a good coach, a good offensive coach, but I think he's more, like we said, in the locker room culture builder type of guy. But when you bring up the Zach Taylors of the world who have been to a Super Bowl, to your point, have beaten the Patrick Mahomes in the big moment when you needed it to, I look at that and I'm like, okay, I appreciate that Dan's there, but I could also see Zach Taylor being ahead of him. So if you were to put Matt LaFleur and swap him with Zach Taylor and then kind of rearrange the list, I think Dan should be in this area just consistently, however you want to arrange it, until proven otherwise. Because it doesn't make him bad, but he's still very young, to Booner's point.
Yeah. What do you think, Boone? You think he should be higher?
I mean, if he's higher, I think it's just like 1 or 2 spots again over on Matt LaFleur. Like I think Dan's had Matt LaFleur's number. I don't know what the exact record is, but it's felt like that. Outside of 1-1 this year, but the year before, it felt like since they've gotten good, Dan's been able to have that. And then the same thing, I think you could argue Sean Payton right now. I know Sean Payton's a coach has had success, but as of right now, I mean, they went head to head last year, and Dan outcoached. That was like a big thing was, can Dan outcoach his previous coach? Lucas, it's funny, yeah, but like he did do that, and I know the team might have been worse, and he was working with Russell Wilson. But I just think at the end of the day, if we're talking about right now, who's the better coach? I think I would say, like, would I rather right now have Dan Campbell or Sean Payton in my locker room? Give me Dan Campbell. That's how I look at it.
See, that's
Give me Dan Campbell.
Hey, I think both are great options.
Give me Dan Campbell. Don't
you
disrespect Dan Campbell.
Give
me Dan Campbell. Don't disrespect that man.
That's fine. It's not disrespectful.
Yeah,
it's not. Sean Payton's a Hall of Fame head coach. Sean Payton is a Hall of Fame head coach.
He did a really good job in New Orleans.
If you're asking me,
I still want Dan Campbell.
If you're asking me, you have one season to win a Super Bowl. Same roster.
Give me Dan Campbell.
Especially in the playoffs. Just because of what I've seen Sean Payton over his career, Dan can get there one day. But at the end of the day,
at this point, I would love Sean Payton to lose every game the rest of his career.
What?
Now it's like a personal. It's like a personal.
It is.
Thing.
It's gotten very personal.
We met Sean Payton at the combine, Boone.
Great guy. Doesn't mean I need to be best friends with him. I didn't just meet Sean Payton. He met Booner as well. So there's that. Goes both ways.
And listen. I got it. Listen, Boone.
Come on,
Dan Campbell.
You would rather have Sean Payton building this team than Dan Campbell.
No, it's not about. I don't want to get into like who would you rather have, but who's the better coach right now? Like
Dan Campbell.
It's not. I know people are gonna be like, oh, dude, Peyton sucks. Like they beat him last year. Like, are we just disregarding like Sean Payton's like resume?
Throwing up phase a little Jordan Humphrey. That's what he's got.
It's not like Bill Belichick where he's a defensive, like he's offensive. Like Dan would even credit Sean Payton for a lot of the stuff he's learned. Like Sean is, I don't know.
Somehow like they went on a little hot streak there for a second too.
So if we're talking about based off resume, would you rather have Bill Belichick or Dan Campbell in the locker room right now?
Well, I think the league's past Bill Belichick.
Checkmate.
I don't think the league passed Sean Payton.
Maybe the league has passed Sean Payton by. Checkmate.
No, he's offensive.
You guys are basing this off resume.
Built for this. Okay. All right. Hey, you can have your opinion. I don't mind it. Hey,
it's not a bad take, Booner. Like I'm not mad at you for it.